Hi everyone, today we are going to do a review over equivalent fractions. So you should have these two worksheets out. And for the first part, we are just going to do a quick little review. You do not need to write this in your math notebook. So, like Mrs. Bones said yesterday, if you have a fraction like this, 1/2, and you want to find the equivalent fraction to it, you could multiply it by any number. So I decided to multiply it by 3, and you got 3. 1 times 3 equals 3, and whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So I did 2, and then I had to multiply that by 3. Notice how I put those arrows. Those arrows help me remember that what I need to multiply by. 1 times 3, and my answer is 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. You don't have to write the arrows, but that's just how I learned them and how I do them. And then I have a picture right here. So you have 1/2 and 3/6. Notice how they are shaded the same. It's because they are equal or equivalent fractions. This is just split up into 6 parts. This is split up into 2 parts, but they are shaded in the same way because they're equivalent. Then we have this fraction right here. So sometimes you're going to get some larger numbers and you're going to have to divide them to make them smaller, but they're going to still be equivalent. So you have to find common factors. I know that 14 divided by 2 would give me 7, but also 2 can go into 20 evenly, so it can give me 10. And then I just have a box right here to visually show you that they are equivalent. I have 20 boxes right here, and I shaded in 14 of them. Then I have 10 boxes below here, which represents 10, and I shaded in 7. And you can see that they're equivalent. Now, when you're drawing pictures, it's important that you have equal parts that you draw them, because otherwise your shading will be off. So I had to make sure that these are all lined up so they can visually see that they are equal. All right, let's move on to this worksheet. We are going to do this worksheet together. I have my answers filled out, but we're going to go over them one by one. So let's start off with 6, number 1. It has 6 and has a blank, and it equals to 1/2. We need to find the equivalent fraction to that. So I see right here that this is 1/2, and I need to make my number bigger because you're going from a smaller number to a bigger number. So that's telling me I need to multiply. So I needed to figure out 1 times what would give me 6? Well, 1 times 6 would give me 6. And whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So I do 2 times 6, which would give me 12. So I just showed my work like that just to lay it out. But if you had space right there to do it, you can. But this is how I showed my work. So 6/12 equals 1/2. So if I were to draw a picture, you could visually see that these two are equivalent fractions. Let's move on to 2. And as I'm going over this, I want you to be writing these down as well. So you might have to pause for a second between questions so you are able to write them down. So number 2, we have 4/16 equals, and then it has a blank, and 4ths. So what we are doing here is we are going from some bigger numbers, and it seems like it gets smaller. So like Mrs. Bones said yesterday, when you have that bigger number and you're going to a smaller one, you need to divide. So I have to figure out 16, how did I get 16 to 4? Well, I have to think of the common factors, and I think that 16 divided by 4 would give me 4, and that is correct. So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. And remember, I put those arrows there to remind me that this is what I need to divide by. This number divided by that will give me my answer. So I did 4 divided by 4, that gave me 1. And then this was already done for us. 16 divided by 4 would give you 4ths. So 4/16 equals 1/4 because they are equivalent. Let's go on to number 3. At any point, you can pause this video and take your notes as well. So we have 3/15 equals, and then blank with a numerator, and then 5ths. So what you have to do here is you see that you have a bigger number and then it gets smaller. I cannot multiply anything by 15 to get me 5. That does not make sense. But I can divide by something to get me 5. So 15, this is when your multiplication and division skills come in. You have to figure out what divided by 15 would give you 5. 3 gives you that. 15 divided by 3 equals 5. And then you have to do whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 3 divided by 3, which gives me 1. So 3/15 is equivalent to 1/5. All right, number 4. 5, 6 equals, and then they have the 30th. So we are going from a smaller numbers to a bigger number. So this is smaller, and we have to get it to 30. So that means we have to multiply. 6 times something gives me 30. 6 times 5 would give me 30. You might have to try some other numbers before if you don't know your multiplication facts as well, and that's okay. So you have to figure out that 6 times 5 would give you 30, but whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 5 times 5, which gives me 25. So we have 5, 6 equals 25/30. These are equivalent. Alrighty, number 5. 3, and then the denominator is missing, equals 12/16. So we can't figure out going this way, but we can look at our larger number. Right here, our larger numbers, because when I say this, these fractions are going to be eventually equivalent. Doesn't necessarily mean that this fraction is bigger, but I'm looking at just the numerator and the denominator. Those numbers, though 12 is larger than 3. So 12 divided by 4 equals 3. And whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. And 16 can go into 4 times. So we have 3/4 equals 12/16. All right, number 6. 6/12 equals 1, and then we don't know what it's equivalent to. That's for us to find out. So we have a bigger number, which is 6, going to a smaller number, which is 1. So that's telling me I have to divide. So what 6 divided by what would give me 1? Well, 6. 6 divided by 6 equals 1. Then whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 12 divided by 6, which gives me 2. So 6/12 is equivalent to 1/2. I want you to pause this video right now and see if you can do the next one yourself. Alrighty, hopefully you paused and you figured it out. Let's go over it. So 10, and you had a blank, equals 2/3. So we see that we have a smaller number, and we need to figure out what larger number, what goes here, what goes in the denominator. So we need to multiply. 2 times something gives me 10. Well, we know that 2 times 5 would give me 10, and then 3 times 5 would give me 15, because whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So that means I have to multiply each of these by 5, and that would give me 10/15 equals 2/3. All right, and then I want you to pause this video again and do numbers 8, 9, and 10 by yourself. And now we are going to go over the answers. So we had 12, and then the denominator is missing, equals 2/4. What I did is I multiplied by 6 because I had a smaller numbers, smaller the 2 and the 4. 2 is smaller than 12, so I needed to make them bigger. I need to make this number bigger, so I need to multiply by 6, and that gave me 12/24 equals 2/4. And then number 9 and 10. Number 9, 3/5 equals, and then we just had the 10. What I did was I multiplied by 2 for each of those. And then that gave me 6/10. So 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10. Then lastly, number 10, you had the numerator is missing, and then you have the denominator, which is 8, equals 1/2. And all you had to do was divide by 4 because you had a bigger number and it was going to a smaller number. So that means that you need to divide by 4. And you got 4/8 equals 1/2. So what you need to do is this for homework. And you need to send a picture to your teacher by tomorrow. And you can do it on a separate piece of paper or you can do it right here.